Welcome to our channel, all friends. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe my channel and press the bell icon to stay update for new videos. Thanks. Let's start new video. Who are you and what are you doing here? I immediately asked the 16 or 17-year-old boy standing in front of me with firmness in my voice. It was forbidden for any unrelated person to enter the bungalow, and the boy was staring at the things in the house with wide eyes, which immediately made me suspicious that he might be a thief or a burglar. He glanced at me and said, "Why should I tell you? The owner of this place called me, and I'm here to meet her." The boy replied to me in pure Urdu, so I immediately realized that he was Pakistani. But why was he here, and what was he here for? I looked him up and down again. From his appearance, he seemed decent. "Are you from Pakistan?" This time I asked him in Urdu, because earlier I had spoken to him in Arabic. I knew quite a bit of Arabic and usually used it here. At that moment, I hadn't realized he was from Pakistan, so I had asked him in Arabic, but he replied in Urdu, and I understood that he was also a foreigner, like me. Upon hearing my Urdu, he was taken aback and said, "Wow, you speak Urdu too?" "I came here to meet the Arab owner. She called me," he added. Hearing this, I sat him down on the couch and called another maid to bring the owner. I couldn't leave him alone in the drawing room. There were many valuable things here, and if he took even one item, my life would be at risk. My Arab owner was very strict and short-tempered, and she never forgave mistakes. That's why I stood by the boy and asked, "Who are you, and what is your relationship with the owner?" He replied, "I'm from Pakistan. My name is Shamail. I came here looking for a job, but I couldn't find one. However, I met your owner, and she said she wanted to offer me some work. That's why I came here." I looked at him in surprise and said, "You look like a 16 or 17-year-old boy. How did you end up working abroad at such a young age?" At my comment, he laughed loudly and replied, "I may look like this, but I'm actually 20 years old." Hearing his age, I felt relieved that he wasn't underage, but I was still puzzled as to why the owner had called him here. We didn't have any shortage of staff at home. The owner lived alone, but she had a whole army of servants, some from India, some from Pakistan, and a few Arabs as well. I was wondering what kind of work the owner could possibly give him when the owner entered the drawing room. Upon seeing the boy, she warmly welcomed him, then looked at me sternly and said, "Why are you standing here? Go do your work and bring something for this boy." The owner's tone made it seem like she knew the boy very well. At the owner's command, I stepped out of the drawing room and went to the kitchen to quickly prepare some coffee for the guest. A little while later, when I reached the drawing room door with the coffee tray, my eyes widened in surprise. My Arab owner was laughing and chatting with the boy in such a familiar way that I was completely taken aback. I had never seen my owner laugh like that before. She always had an angry expression on her face, her nose and forehead furrowed in constant displeasure. When she saw me, she immediately stopped laughing. I placed the coffee tray down and quickly left the room. Outside, Mina was standing, so I called her and said, "You know, today was the first time I saw the owner laughing." Mina, a Hindu girl who worked here, was also surprised to hear this. Then she said, "Are you serious? The owner actually laughed?" After hearing that, I nodded, and she laughed loudly, saying, "Well, today we learned that our owner is actually alive." Her words made me laugh too, and then we both got busy with our tasks. The boy left after a while, but late at night, when I finished my work in the kitchen and turned off the lights before heading out, I was surprised to see that boy again in the lounge. "Why are you here again? You met the owner already, didn't you?" I asked him in surprise. But before he could answer, I heard the owner's voice from behind me. "What's your problem, Nida? Why are you always asking questions? Just let him in," the owner said, and then turned around to head back to her room. My hands and feet trembled at her words, as I was always afraid that she would take offense at something. I couldn't afford to lose my job. As soon as the owner left, I stepped aside and followed her quietly. I watched as the boy entered her room and the owner shut the door behind them. A wave of curiosity ran through me. What was going on? Why had the young boy been invited into the owner's room so late at night? And why had the door been locked? The owner had no connection with the boy, and I had never seen him before. I felt like eavesdropping at the door, but if I did that, the owner would have straight away had me deported. So I returned to the servant quarters. In my quarters, Nana was also living with me. Each quarter had two people residing in it. When Nana saw me, she asked, "What happened? You're late today." Nana and I shared a good friendship. I immediately sat on my bed and said, "You know, Nana, the boy who came earlier today? He came again, and now he's locked in the owner's room with her. Who is he really?" Nana was also curious, sitting up and saying, "Are you serious, Nita? The boy is in the owner's room at this hour of the night. He looked like a sweet boy, even younger than his age. Why did the owner take him with her? It seems like she must have gotten tired of her loneliness. The owner's husband has been wandering around in other countries for so long. Now a young woman is left alone, so something like this was bound to happen." When I heard Nana's words, my eyes widened in surprise. "Are you crazy? What are you saying? The owner is a very good and decent woman. She's just a bit quick-tempered, but that doesn't mean she would do anything inappropriate behind the husband's back. I think there's something else going on here. Don't you know, Nida? These Arab women are quite indulgent. They do things that you wouldn't even imagine. I've been working here for many years. I've worked in many Arab women's houses. I know more about their indulgences than you do. And the owner's husband has been gone for so long. Now maybe she has taken a liking to this young man. That's why she brought him here. If you don't believe me, you can sneak around and check for yourself." Upon hearing Nana, I immediately shook my head in denial. "No way! If I go snooping around and get caught, the owner will have me deported immediately. You know that my children are waiting for me to send money. They need the money more than anything else. I don't care what the owner does with that boy. It's none of my business." I made sure to show indifference in front of Nana and then lay down to sleep. But after lying down, my mind began to race with various thoughts. Why had the boy come here? Had the owner really brought him here to distract herself in the absence of her husband? But how could that be? No married woman would behave like this in the presence of her husband. Then I started thinking about myself. I had been married for almost 12 years. For the first 7 years of marriage, I lived in the same house, under the same roof with my husband. We had 3 children, but the domestic conditions were so bad that I often felt like ending my life, seeing my children in distress. Then, through a friend, I got this job. Then I spoke to my husband and came abroad. My husband had tried to stop me, but for the sake of the children, I had decided to seek a living abroad. I had been here for many years, and during all that time, I had never once thought of using a man to ease my loneliness. I remained loyal to my husband, performed my duties diligently, and sent all the money I earned back home for my children. A house was being built there, and my children were attending good schools. When they called me, they spoke fluent English. My husband also got a job, and because of that, our situation began to improve. However, in the process of improving our circumstances, there had been a considerable distance between us. Despite that, I had never considered doing anything wrong. Any married woman thinks 1,000 times before doing something wrong, and I was sure that a righteous woman like the owner would never do anything inappropriate. With these thoughts in mind, I drifted off to sleep. In the morning, I woke up with the Fajr call to prayer, and after offering my prayer, I went to the bungalow with Nana. We were always the first to arrive at the bungalow because the cleaning duties were our responsibility. As soon as we stepped into the bungalow, I saw the door of the owner's room open, and then that same boy, Shamel, came out of the owner's room. His condition was quite strange. It was difficult for him to even walk. He staggered as he passed by us and made his way outside. I was shocked to see that he had been in the owner's room all night. I thought he would have left after a while, but now he was in such a state. What had he been doing all night that he came out of the room like this? I looked at Nana, and she gave me a strange smile, saying, "Didn't I tell you? I knew the owner was not as righteous as she seemed. I know these Arab women very well. You're not familiar with their deeds yet." She picked up the broom and went ahead, and I felt like the ground had slipped from under my feet. I couldn't have imagined such a thing, but I tried to reassure myself that what I saw with my eyes might not be the full truth. Surely the owner hadn't done anything inappropriate, but the image of the boy's condition kept returning to my mind. I tried to shake it off and focused on my work. There was a lot to do at the bungalow. After cleaning, I had to manage the kitchen, and in the evenings, the owner's friends would usually come over. She would spend a lot of time with them, and we had to prepare various items for them. The day passed like this, but in the evening, since the owner's friends didn't show up, there was less work to do, and Nana and I got a chance to rest. We both went to the quarters and lay down for a while. Nana started talking again, saying, "The owner has it easy. She has a rich husband, money is no issue, and she can buy young boys whenever she wants. And then there's us, who can't find a man to save our lives." Nana had never been married. She was supporting her family back in India, which included 4 younger brothers and a father who was bedridden. Her mother spent her days doing household chores. To support her family, Nana had to leave her homeland and come abroad to work. She was around 35 years old, but there seemed to be no prospect of marriage for her because she was still the sole provider for her family. Because of this, she sometimes felt envious of the owner, who, at 30, looked young and beautiful. The owner's husband had no shortage of money, and the owner's indulgence was at its peak. When her friends visited, the owner would lavishly spend money. Now, Nana even thought that the owner might be having some fun behind her husband's back. Nana said, "I'm thinking of one day telling the owner's husband about what his wife is doing. It would be so much fun." Hearing this, I slapped her on the head and said, "What's wrong with you? How can you think such things about the owner? Not every day does a boy come by. This was the first time I saw anyone like that. You can't accuse someone like that." I advised Nana to stop thinking like that, and after a while we went back to the bungalow. The work kept us so busy that we lost track of time. As usual, Nana finished her tasks early and went back to the servant quarters while I did a final check on everything. I inspected all the cleaning and, after turning off the lights, was about to head outside when I saw a new young man standing at the door. He was even more handsome than Shamil, and I couldn't take my eyes off him. He looked like an Arab boy. I asked in surprise, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" He gave the same response as Shamil, saying, "The owner called for me. I came here at her request." Before I could say anything, I heard the owner's voice from behind saying, "Nita, send him to my room." Little while later, the door to the room closed and the light went out. Seeing this, I felt as if the light inside me had gone out too. I stared at that closed door, the one behind which my owner was now with a new young man. Was Nana's suspicion correct? Was the owner really deceiving her husband? I stood there frozen for a while, and then when I returned to the servant quarters, Nana immediately noticed my expression. She asked, "What happened? Did you see a ghost?" I quickly shook my head and said, "No ghosts, but I did see a new young man." Hearing this, she jumped up and said, "Tell me the truth. Is there another new guy here today? I told you before that the owner is on a different path. If I get the chance, I'll complain to the husband about her. It burns me to see the owner indulging in such luxuries. I don't know why such luxuries are not in our fate." I firmly told Nana not to do anything foolish. If we make a move, we could lose our jobs. Whether the owner invites a young man for indulgence or something else, that's none of our business. Don't you dare do anything that would put our jobs at risk. Think about our families. If we lose our Gus, what will happen to them? Nana nodded in agreement. She understood that if we lost our most, we would be helpless. Back home, we wouldn't have anything to fall back on. So we both decided to stay quiet. But the next morning, as soon as we entered the bungalow, my eyes went straight to the new young man. My heart skipped a beat. His condition was worse than Shamil's. He could barely stand or walk. Leaning on the wall, he stumbled outside. I just watched him leave, standing there in disbelief. The night he came in front of me, he was completely healthy, walking steadily as he entered the owner's room. At that time, he had no pain in his feet, nor did he limp. What had happened in just one night? I looked at Nana and she said, "No one can match the power of these Arab women. Have you seen the owner? She eats so many dry fruits and uses all sorts of things for strength. And what do these young men have against her? They can't stand in front of her for the whole night." Saying this, she chuckled quietly, and I just stood there staring at her. Then the next night, another new young man appeared. This time, I was so curious that I decided I had to find out what was really going on because I had always thought of the owner as a virtuous and pious woman. It was hard for me to believe that she was a woman of such ill repute. I kept quiet and went back to the quarters, not revealing anything in front of Nana. But later, when Nana fell into a deep sleep, I quietly slipped out of the quarters and headed back to the bungalow. The owner's room had a back door that opened onto the balcony, and there was a path leading to it. When I reached the balcony, I found the back door locked. There was no way to peek inside either. I stood near the door and started listening to the owner's voice coming from inside. The more I listened, the more my doubts turned into certainty. What I hadn't wanted to believe, I was starting to think might really be happening inside. After a short while, unease began to creep into me. I had been living without my husband for so long. Should I also find a way to complete myself? Could I also relieve my loneliness the same way? I longed to somehow peek inside to see what the owner was doing, but it wasn't possible. So I returned to the servant quarters and went to sleep. The next day, Nana asked, "Where did you go last night, Nita?" I looked at her in a panic and she continued, "I woke up and you weren't in your room. I didn't have the courage to get up and look for you." I lied and said I wasn't feeling well, so I went for a short walk outside the quarters. She seemed satisfied with my answer, but my heart was racing. I was relieved that she hadn't suspected anything. Then the next day, I deliberately took my time with all my work, even though it was getting late and I hadn't finished. Nana said, "What's wrong with you today? You haven't finished your work." I told her, "You go ahead and rest. I'll finish my work, relax in the bungalow for a bit, and then join you." She was satisfied with my reply and went to the servant quarters. I took the opportunity to hide in the owner's room. I hid inside the wardrobe, leaving the door slightly ajar so I could see clearly. After a while, the owner entered the room with a young man, and they closed the door behind them. Then she lay down on the bed, face down. Seeing this, the ground seemed to slip beneath my feet. It turned out that Nana was right. The owner was completely deceiving her husband. I thought about leaving and not watching anymore, but the sounds coming from the room forced me to peek again. As I looked through the crack in the door, my mind went blank. The owner's shirt had come off her back, revealing large bruises, and it seemed like someone had whipped her terribly with a belt. The boy whom the owner had brought with her was applying some kind of herbal substance to her back, and her soft moans echoed throughout the room. I quietly watched this scene for a long time. The boy stood by the mortar and pestle, grinding the herbs every now and then applying them to the owner's back. He continued massaging her back with the freshly ground herbs until morning arrived, and the owner allowed him to leave with his payment. However, walking had become difficult for the boy because he had worked hard, grinding the tough herbs and then standing all night attending to the owner. In the morning, the owner quietly left her room and went for a walk, while I sneaked out and resumed my tasks. I didn't tell Nana anything, but I had learned the truth. The owner's back was covered with large wounds, and she brought these boys to treat them. However, I had no idea how these wounds had appeared on her back or who had inflicted such cruelty upon her. The next day, the owner called me to her room and asked, "What were you doing in my room last night?" My heart skipped a beat as I heard her voice. She continued, "I trust you. That's why I'm asking. Tell me honestly, what were you doing there?" I told her everything, how I had wrongly assumed things about her. As I spoke, tears welled up in the owner's eyes. She said, "The one whom you consider to be a wealthy and good man is, in fact, a very immoral person." She said, "The man who has made me his second wife here, he goes around with other women and indulges in pleasures. And when he comes here, he treats me badly and abuses me. He has never given me the status of a wife, and that is why my body bears so many wounds, because he beats me severely. But I want to keep my dignity intact, so I've never told anyone about this, nor have I ever called any other servant to attend to me. I have been quietly treating my wounds with herbs because I don't want my friends to know how miserable my life really is." She started crying, and I was shocked to realize that, just like in Pakistan, women in Saudi Arabia also suffer from abuse. Like Eastern women, they hide these things and try to maintain the illusion of happiness. The owner continued, "I am forced to spend my life like this with my husband because I have no one around me. My husband is a powerful man. Whenever he feels like it, he comes here and uses me. And when he's done, he leaves and beats me badly. He doesn't return until my wounds heal. Right now, he knows that my wounds are deep, so he hasn't come, probably because he's found other women to satisfy his pleasures. But once I heal, he will come back, and for a while I will have him again. The herbal treatments require strong boys to grind the herbs, which is why I bring boys like that to my room at night. I find them, and in return, I pay them a good sum of money. Most of the time, I bring in non-local boys to help them out. Promise me that you won't tell anyone about this, the lady said, extending her hand toward me. I promised her, wanting to help her maintain her dignity. In a way, my life is also based on maintaining this kind of illusion. My husband has always been lazy and unproductive. He never worked hard, and because of that, I had to come abroad. Even now, he only does a little bit of work that's just enough to get by. But I never complained about him because I didn't want to argue. And I didn't tell my family either because, like the lady, I wanted to maintain the illusion of my relationship. And now I realize that every woman, in some way or another, sacrifices herself to preserve her relationships. I didn't reveal the lady's truth to Nana either. I remained silent. Now I serve the lady even more and try to take better care of her. You all tell me, is it necessary to hide our partner's flaws, mistakes, and shortcomings to maintain the integrity of our relationships?